Greetings all you movie junkies and entertainment lovers, and welcome to another ranking video. Today we're going to be taking a look at one of the most iconic franchises in horror history, the Friday the 13th franchise. A franchise that is very divided and very mixed in terms of which ones are the best and which ones are the worst. So I'm going to rank all the films from worst to best, and like I always point out, it's important to remember this is just my personal list of the way that I would rank all the films. Right at the bottom of the barrel at number 12 for me is the Friday the 13th remake. I don't actually dislike any of the Friday the 13th films. I think honestly they are all good films to a certain extent. It has a lot of its fans and that's great. I thought Derek Mears did a great job as the character, but overall I think for me it's just like once Jason fights Freddy and once he goes to hell and once he goes to space and goes to Manhattan and gets resurrected multiple times, having him then just kind of back to just killing camp counselors on the lake in a generic way all over again, to me just wasn't really exciting. And I think that's for me the problem with this film, is that it just didn't really have much to offer in the way of the franchise that we hadn't seen before. A lot of the characters are dumb, there's a lot of odd sort of character choices and dumb moments, but there is also some good atmospheric moments as well. So it's not a terrible film, but it's really the only one of these films that I have no interest at this point in going back and rewatching. So right at the bottom of the barrel is the Friday the 13th remake. And then coming in at number 11, we have Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday, the second time that they said it would be the last film of the franchise. I personally have always really liked it, but I do understand why a lot of people don't like it and don't get it. Really, for me, the problem with this one is that it just feels so disconnected from the rest of the films. And say what you want about the previous movies, at least, there was a continuity that they followed. Sometimes it might have been a little bit shaky. The times and years that when certain things took place might not have made a lot of sense. This one just feels, honestly, other than the fact that Jason is in it, it honestly kind of feels like it's part of a completely different franchise where we missed the previous 9 parts, which is, I think, the real problem with this, because of course you got Creighton Duke in here, which I thought was a really interesting character. There's other characters here and that we've never seen before, and then suddenly we've got the Voorhees house that it's like, why did Jason never go back here before? And then there's this dagger that we've never heard of before. And I think for me that's the real thing that brings this one down, is the fact that it's got all these elements that just they try to introduce, and I think honestly they were trying to maybe do too much. They were trying to push the franchise in too much of a different direction. For me, I still think it's a fun time, so that's Jason Goes to Hell at number 11. At number 10, we have Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning. This, of course, is often referred to as the fake Jason movie, and I won't talk too much about this one as I did recently do a review on it. It is, I think, a decent enough slasher film, but I think it's not really that great of a Friday the 13th film. It seems like it was very desperate to take the franchise in a new direction. It's a very strange film. I think it's a lot of fun to watch, but it's not particularly that good. It's definitely the most sort of sleazy feel of all the Friday the 13th films, but it definitely has its charm. The character's a lot of fun, and it just kind of isn't really as entertaining as a lot of the others. So that's Friday the 13th Part 5 at number 10. And then at number 9, we have Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. The main problem with this one, and what people always refer to as, is that instead of Jason Takes Manhattan, for the most part, it's Jason Takes a Boat to Manhattan. I at least appreciate what they were trying to do, and this movie was originally supposed to be a lot more on a bigger scale than it ended up being. But again, it was just kind of, there's something about this one where it does feel like they were legitimately trying to make something that was different, something that was fun, but something that was still very much grounded in what we knew as the franchise previously. And I think this one honestly has a lot to offer. I think once they do finally get to Manhattan, it does start getting really good, even though a lot of it wasn't actually in Manhattan. It was in, Vancouver, Canada. And the ending death is one of the most perplexing of the franchise, but overall there's something about this one, it's just kind of a fun watch. I enjoy it. So that's Jason Takes Manhattan at number 9. And then at number 8, we have Jason X. This one people are very divided on. Honestly, this movie is fun. It is completely wacky, completely ridiculous. It very much is self-aware though when you watch it. The best way to describe this movie is that it is a science fiction monster movie where the monster happens to be Jason Voorhees. It really isn't trying to be a Friday the 13th film at all. It quite literally just takes Jason out and puts him in this science fiction movie, and it's fun. It gets right to the point. It has lots of fun, silly moments, but it's done in a way where you can kind of have fun with it instead of being annoyed with how stupid it is. At least that's my personal experience with it. It's definitely one that I would like to talk more about at some point because it's just a fascinating film, and the fact that they even made it to begin with is crazy. So that's Jason X at number 8. And then at number 7, we have Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood. The first one to feature Kane Hodder as Jason, and this to me I would say is the most underrated of all the films. The main issue of course was that the MPAA at the time really hacked this movie up, and when you watch it there are a lot of times where you can tell that it was censored quite a bit. There was a lot of blood cut out of it. I don't go into these movies looking for tons of gore, tons of kills. That's just sort of a secondary thing for me, even with slasher films. For me with horror films it's more about sort of the mood, the setting of it, the story of it. I do think it is a really fun movie, and it probably has one of the most coolest designs of Jason in all of the films. And again, the ending of the movie, which is just really just this awesome practical effects extravaganza. I think it's a fun movie. So that's Friday the 13th Part 7 at number 7. And then at number 6, we have Freddy vs. Jason. This film is just fun. When you have a movie called Freddy vs. Jason, this movie honestly is pretty much exactly what you would expect it to be. I mean, let's be honest. Went through multiple rewrites, had tons and tons of different directors attached to it, and then eventually after about 10 years of development, it finally came out in 2003. Anytime Robert Englund is on screen, he absolutely shines here in what ultimately ended up being his last proper performance as the character. I think it's a lot of fun. Is it, the greatest movie ever made? No. But for what it is, for what it tried to do, I think they ultimately ended up doing a really good job of it, and I think it's just a fun movie. So that's Freddy vs. Jason at number 6. And then at number 5, we have Friday the 13th Part 3. It's 3D effects, even though they are kind of hokey and don't really work as well now when you're watching it. There's something about it kind of adds to the charm of it. It has a very specific look to it that is very different from all the other films. It just is a very, very fun watch, even though again, it's not quite as gritty. It doesn't hold up quite as well as some of the other films. But again, it's just a really fun watch, and at the end of the day, it is the one that introduced us to the hockey mask wearing Jason. So that's Friday the 13th Part 3 at number 5. And then at number 4, we have Friday the 13th Part 2. This is a film that I've gone back and forth on quite a bit. The original first time I watched it, I wasn't really that big on it. In fact, it was actually one of my more least favorite. But over the years, after revisiting this one a bunch of times, I really have come to appreciate it a lot more. It definitely introduced a lot of aspects that would become mainstays for the franchise and so many other films. Final jump scare is honestly practically on par with the original film's jump scare. The fact that they were able to even pull that off, I thought was pretty great. And overall, it is one that has definitely grown on me quite a bit over the years. I do think that it is a really great film. So that's Friday the 13th Part 2 at number 4. Number 3, we have the original Friday the 13th. Another one that I've gone back and forth on quite a bit, and at the end of the day, this one really did start a lot of, the elements that became mainstays throughout the franchise. I don't think that this film is anywhere near as, the greatest horror film ever made, but at the end of the day, it definitely was a big game changer for when it came out, for what initially did start as a kind of a rip-off of Halloween. So the whole ending with Betsy Palmer, of course, is fantastic. Her performance as Pamela Voorhees is great. And of course, it has, honestly, probably the greatest and most iconic jump scare of all time. I mean, to be honest, nothing else beats it. Whenever you watch this movie for the first time, if you don't know that jump scare is coming, it will get you. It is so perfectly timed, so perfectly edited. It literally is a masterclass of the jump scare. So that's the original at number 3. And then at number 2, another film that has grown on me quite a bit over the years is Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter. The first time that they said it was going to be the last one, which of course it didn't end up being the last one. This one just took everything from the previous 3 movies and just like put it all together. They really just went for it and gave us, you know, more kills, more carnage, and of course you got Tom Savini coming back from the original film doing the makeup effects. With a lot of these movies, a lot of these other movies, a lot of the time you're just kind of waiting for the killers to just kill off the other characters, but this is the only one where you actually don't mind it as much. You actually have kind of fun with the characters. By the time something happens and there's a kill, it's like, oh shoot, right, this is a Friday the 13th movie, I forgot. And I know for a lot of people this is sort of the one that they started with, ironically enough. But yeah, the whole ending chase and fight is great, and yeah, it's overall just a really solid, great movie. I know for a lot of people it's the best, but for me there was just one other that slightly beat it out, so that's Friday the 13th Part 4 at number 2. Number 1 is Jason Lives Friday the 13th Part 6. This one just has all of the best elements of the franchise. I think it's the best looking, honestly the best Jason. I thought, you know, CJ Graham's performance as Jason I thought was incredible. We've got Tom Matthews in here as Tommy Jarvis. We got, you know, some songs by Alice Cooper, and this is really the first time where they established that Jason is a supernatural being, and it's the only Friday the 13th movie to actually have kids. Oh my god, there's actually kids at a camp this time around. Who would have thought to do that, you know, 6 movies in? Tom McLaughlin just did an absolutely fantastic job. It very much is his version of Frankenstein in a lot of ways. It was kind of a little bit like the first Scream before Scream, where you've got a lot of sort of self-aware jokes. Fantastic movie, and it just has all of, like, to me, the best elements that make this franchise worth watching. So that's Jason Lives at number 1. Well, there you go, guys. That was a list of the way that I would rank all of the Friday the 13th films. Feel free to jump in the comments down below. Let me know what order you would rank all the films in. And yeah, so until next time, be sure to consume as much entertainment as humanly possible. And I will see you in the next video.